Well, hello, everyone. My name's Elizabeth Lien. I'm the program director for America's All In. I wanted to welcome you all and thank you all for joining today. For those of you who are less familiar, America is All In is the most expansive coalition of U.S. climate leaders ever assembled, and we have a clear mission to ensure states, cities, tribal nations, businesses, and institutions from across the U.S. are mobilizing and driving ambitious action to reach our climate and clean energy goals. At this point, our coalition represents roughly two-thirds of the US population and three-quarters of US GDP. With that reach and the power to take significant climate action within cities, states, businesses, and beyond, there's really a powerful story to tell. We're here today to share the new state and local clean energy economy messaging guide from America's All In and Climate Power, and to talk about how important it is that you are communicating with your constituents right now on the benefits of clean energy investments and progress. We want to make sure you have what you need to tell a strong and effective message about the critical clean energy work happening in your community. I hope that you leave today's webinar recognizing why communications is so critical from local leaders like yourselves, feeling equipped and empowered to be a confident communicator in your community, and being inspired by some of the examples of storytelling efforts by your fellow local leaders. Many partners help make this resource the useful tool that it is today. And I would like to thank our friends at Climate Power, Climate Mayors, and others for their partnership on this guide. Now I'd like to welcome Mayor McLean from the city of Boise, Idaho. Mayor McLean serves as the Vice Chair of Climate Mayors and has been a longtime member of America's All In Leaders Circle. She is an incredible leader and messenger on the power of clean energy and climate action for local communities. Mayor McLean, over to you.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. I really appreciate it. And thanks, everybody, for joining today. I'm Lauren McLean, and I currently serve as the mayor of Boise, Idaho, and the vice chair of Climate Mayors. It's really an honor to be here. And I want to start by thanking Elizabeth and America's All In, and Lori and others from Climate Power, as well as Climate Mayors, for the work that went into this guide that we're releasing today. And also want to encourage everyone to use it. I think it'll be very helpful. Thought I'd share a little bit about the work that we're doing here in Boise and how we talk about it with Boiseans and with others, because we are taking full advantage of the availability of clean electricity and clean power, as well as other climate action partnerships with our residents to ensure that our neighborhoods and our city and ultimately region remain resilient with prosperity into the future. In the last couple of years, we've really looked at how we take advantage of clean electricity, clean energy to reduce costs. For us as a city government and our operations, which ultimately means reducing costs for our residents, but then also coming up with ways in partnership with the community to help residents reduce costs and when they take specific action to use clean electricity or even to cool their homes in different ways. And often when I talk with residents about this work, I do frame it in dollars and cents issues because as the world changes and climate has its impacts, jobs are going to be responding, as we've seen. Communities will respond, and I want our city and region to be one of those economic winners in the long run, with jobs that rely on clean electricity and clean energy that think about and are prepared for the future, and then create that opportunity for our kids and grandkids. But while thinking about the long term, we're also very focused on the day-to-day here in Boise to save folks money now. And often, I first want to ground it in the goals that we have. We set goals for our city government first, followed by citywide goals, because I believe that if we could figure it out and take the learnings from the experience we have in meeting those goals, then we're going to pivot and with the community take those learnings and experience and be able to meet the community goals too. So by 2030, Boise's government operations will be powered by 100% clean electricity, and we are on track to meet that goal. By 2035, the entire city of Boise, the community at large, would be powered by 100% electricity. And by 2035, City of Boise government will be carbon neutral. We'll take those learnings and do the same citywide by 2050. So what that means right now is I'm sitting in a city hall that's heated with geothermal heat. We have, through a great partnership with our power company, signed the first power purchase agreement, if you will, looking at and predicting the costs of electricity into the future powered by solar electricity that's being developed for the city of Boise as a customer. And our airport and clean water facilities are now powered by 100% clean electricity, getting us a lot further towards our goal. And then there's simpler things, the negotiating power agreements, adding solar panels to fire stations, building only all electric buildings throughout the city, which is what we're doing. There's the simple actions of planting trees that I wanted to highlight. We have a goal that by 2030, we will have doubled our tree canopy, which means 30% coverage in the city of Boise. And we got to do that in partnership with residents. And we're doing it because as we plant more trees, the heat drops in our neighborhoods as we're experiencing more and more hot days and hotter nights. Heat drops, saving residents money in terms of how much air conditioning they have to use. As some kids that visited that are doing a climate project, it also helps protect our health and clean air. And so we are well on our way to meeting that goal as well. And we're doing that with tree captains throughout the city and with a forestry department that's registering trees and nurseries that are partnering to help identify the types of trees that will thrive, like fully thrive in Boise. And we also were the beneficiaries of a grant through a partnership with our Treasure Valley Canopy Network of $1.1 million to plant trees region-wide. Unfortunately, that grant was canceled in February with the change of administration. We remain committed at the City of Boise to continuing this work, but it's harder and harder for other communities throughout the region to do the same. I will continue to encourage our residents to take climate action in partnership with us so we can meet our goals, because it will save us money today and into the future and create economic opportunity as well as vibrancy and resiliency in our neighborhoods. And as chair of climate mayors, a vice chair, of climate mayors, I'm encouraging all of our mayors to do the same. We are coming up with and implementing solutions at the local level and in hand with our residents, and we're making a difference. And in these times in particular, it's even more important that we continue to do that. So I want to thank all of our partners once more for the investment and time that you've put into this guide. Encourage climate mayors and other mayors throughout the country to take a look, to take advantage of the work that's been put into how we link the economic and prosperity messages to climate action steps we're taking today. And with that, I would like to pass it over to Lori Lodes, the Climate Powers Executive Director, the organization that's been deeply involved with America's All in creating this guide. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you so much, Mayor McLean. We are very grateful to be partnering with you on all of this, on this project, as well as America is All In and Climate Mayors. It really has been an all-in effort to bring this guidebook to life. I want to say that if you have, I'm going to run through just to set expectations around a dozen slides. And then we'll open it up for questions at the end. And so if you do have questions, use the Q&A function. I believe Gus went ahead and put that into the chat as well. And we are going to also walk through the slides now. Great. Okay, so we're going to share this guide with you all, and I want to walk through a few of the most important takeaways. We're not going to go through everything, but there is a lot of work that went into it, and so we do want to highlight a few things. Like I said, in partnership with America is All In and with input from climate mayors, C4 cities, U.S. Climate Alliance, Sustainable Cities, National Caucus of Environmental Legislators, we created this guide so that you had the best distillation of poll-tested messaging at your fingertips to help shape and drive a steady drumbeat in your community around the positive impacts of clean energy investments in a clear and simple way. We also wanted you to be armed with the best defense against attacks we've seen to clean energy progress. And so we'll dig into that a bit today too. We broke it up into 3 parts to make it as user-friendly as possible. And I'll talk briefly about each of the key sections today. Telling your story, strategies for getting the word out, and lastly, combating attacks on clean energy programs. So let's get into the first. How do we tell an impactful story? And this is something that you learn in elementary school, the key elements of telling a good story. The what, the who, the how, and the why. It hasn't changed, and there's a reason why that is, stayed true all of these years. So let's start with the what. We need to show people what your community is receiving, right? We have put a lot of resources into the guide, thanks to all of the partners, that really outline impactful projects, show how people are benefiting right now in the community, and how you can use those facts and those details to really show the what, to connect that very impactful narrative about how people are going to be benefiting. Number two, the who. You all know this because you do it every day in your communications, is make it personal. And you will hear me say this probably 30 times today, and I say it 1,000 times every day. The story is so important. Who is benefiting? Who is the storyteller, the person who has benefited firsthand that can share the story of what it has meant for them, what it has meant for their neighbors, what it has meant for their communities, and highlighting people directly benefiting from these investments, and any press or outreach you do will make it real for people. It will make them see themselves in those stories, and help people tell their own stories. That validation is incredibly important. How is really about what makes this all possible. Now, we all know, and we could list off all of the acronyms and the specific 45 X of it all, and nobody else knows what we're talking about, right? And that is same for IRA, IRA, even Inflation Reduction Act or bill. It does not mean anything. So, try to avoid jargon as much as you can. Keep it simple and focus on the impact, but it is important to be clear why this is happening or how it's happening. And it is because of the federal investments or the investments that have been made possible. And then finally is the why. We say this a lot because it really is just so important, is to show, don't tell. Use the storytellers, just like we've been talking about, the visuals, the real examples of people saving money on their utility bills, and getting that reliable energy source, whether it's a heat pump or solar panels, at a discount, the new jobs in their community. By connecting it to the benefit and why it is important and why people should care. That is really how we are able to connect with people and attach it to what they're really thinking about and what they care about. There's a really great local TV piece in the guide that does all of these four things really well. What I love about the story is that it highlights how a homeowner in Georgia was able to install heat and air conditioning in her home for the first time ever, which would not have been possible without the home rebates program. But it didn't stop there. It also featured the local contractor who is now getting additional business from new clients because of that funding. And that is what, making those connections for people, showing who it is impacting and how, really is the key, the cornerstone of a powerful story. I want to go through some do's and don'ts. I try not to read slides, and I know there's a lot of text on this slide, but so I am going to do it because I think it is important to really let these sink in and think about how you can do it. And these are some of our highest impact cost messaging do's and don'ts. It's based off of a series of recent national polls, including one that we fielded around the 100-day mark of Trump's presidency or the current administration's tenure. And so I want to read through these key points. Do talk about direct impacts. Talk about the direct impacts for people, how they feel about it, acknowledge their economic hardship, provide specific examples of the costs that are hitting people's wallets and what will save them money. Do keep it simple. Do not get into the weeds. I just did the whole acronym thing. But so do not do that. What we want to do is to keep it simple. Name the problem and how clean energy is the fix. People are feeling strained. As I said, we have done a lot of polling. We do a lot of research. And this is not only the research that we have done and partners have done, but you see it with Gallup and Pew and all of the other public resources, is people are feeling the anxiety of this moment, the chaos of this moment, and the strain on their finances from tariffs and just the uncertainty. And they want to know that there is a plan to fix it and to make it okay. Third, include local voices, especially workers, business leaders, and constituents. And make sure that you talk about what people see without naming the cause. Utilize the timely events, especially those that are relevant to the pressing news. And I think that is the other piece of this. This sort of goes without saying, but but it is important, is just the relevance of the story you are telling and making it fit into how people are, the news that they are receiving in their everyday lives. Um, how do you do this? That's a very important point. And you all know the tools you have, and I just want to reinforce it because it is not any one of these, it is really all of these, right? The way the media is fragmented now, it is so incredibly important that you are reaching people where they are getting their news, which is not just in the press. And we have to find ways to break through in this new media landscape. And some of the best ways to do that are through social media and influencers. And guess what? You all are some of the best influences in your state, in your community, in your town. Your direct voice is so important. And I realize that there is a lot coming at you, and there is no end of the local issues you are dealing with, the state issues, the national issues that are impacting your everyday governance. But people are eager to hear from you, and I think it's also important, don't wait, and this is a problem that I have, I will admit, of wanting things to feel polished and put together, and you have all of the points, because you can pull someone aside at an event and film a quick video on your iPhone or your phone, um, and that will show people how you are doing the work and what it looks like in your community. As we talked about, those storytellers, the people who are directly impacted by the funding cut announcements or by new projects or new jobs that are uh, created, think a worker in a hard hat, those types of local stakeholders are so important. And how can you help get their voices out and give them that larger platform? Whether it is on your social media, whether it is connecting someone to a reporter, or it's hosting an event, a roundtable, or uh, a press conference, or a job training, or a factory tour. Include the people whose lives are being impacted into how you are telling this story. And I will just say, right now, and I'm not going to really get into it on this call, but it is an incredible moment to be drumming up the support locally in every community across the country as the attacks against clean energy investments we are seeing play out in Congress right this moment. And members of Congress will be in their districts just in a couple of days, right? They're planning on going home by Friday, and having taken significant action to end these investments. And so people are going to be paying attention because it's something the media are already going to be covering. I'm going to try to speed it up a little bit because I know we only have 30 minutes. Um, you all know this as well as I do. People want to know what impacts them, what are the clean energy investments will mean for their day to day, and really their wallets, right? People are extraordinarily cost sensitive, especially right now. Governor Moore is an excellent communicator, and he does an excellent job in this example, a post we grabbed, of both showing and telling people how they will save money and the good paying jobs that are being created as a result of his leadership and the investments that have been made. And we talked about this earlier in our do's and don'ts section. Keep it simple. Talk about it, direct impacts to people and their livelihoods. And as a bonus, the governor also included local workers in his post because he knows that people need to see the impacts to believe them. Seeing really is believing for people. I think you all see this in your everyday roles of there is a lack of trust in this country. And so we need to connect people to people like them. Okay, defending the clean energy boom. This is the third section of the guide, and it's really combating attacks on all clean energy programs. And here's the thing, there is so much on the line for these investments. And so I really want to make sure, and really the one of the goals of the guidebook was to make sure that you all were equipped to tell your stories and to tell that story in your community right now. You have such a unique role to play, and always really, but really right now in defending the work that is happening, not just on not just on the impacts to energy, which are huge, not just the impact on cutting pollution, which is huge, but also on the local economy, right? What are the clean energy investments meaning to your community? Because it's not just the new factory that's opening up, right? It's not just the new project or the new jobs that are available. There is that trickle, that's not the right word. There is that long tail of it, of who it extends to, and it's really lifting up the entire community. So the more we can talk about the tangibles, right? How is clean energy helping to lower cost, revitalizing communities, strengthening our economies, and keeping America competitive, not just here at home, but globally? You're really hitting all of the major proof points. There are three ways to combat attacks. It's our three-pronged approach. First, be specific about the consequences, how many jobs are on the line, how much someone's bills will go up. Bring it back to the basics. Jobs and costs are extremely effective, especially in those communities where the impact of those investments are already being felt. Second, use local examples of businesses people know in the community. What new project or residential benefit is on the line? People want to know what is going to impact them in their day to day, so make it as connected as possible. And third, you can't do this alone. Bring people in by asking them to take action. Which one of your neighbors can pick up the phone and call their member of Congress to talk about what's on the line? What business do you know is going to be impacted and they're too scared to raise their voice right now? But you, as a local leader, can speak on behalf of them to that member of Congress. And so I just want to, there is so much that you all are doing, so much that can be done. And so I just, want to implore, can you talk to press? Can you use your social media channels to get out the facts? Because that is the number one way we combat the attacks is by getting out the truth. Okay, just a couple more slides. I promised to speed up, and I'm not sure I did. Um, and so I really want to go through a couple of polling points over the next couple of slides. Actually, I am going to go to the next slide, Grace, if you don't mind, because it will sort of bring it all together. There are three really bottom lines from the reports and the polling that we have done. Energy cost our energy costs are going to increase because of the attacks on clean energy. People are already there. They expect 6 in 10 Americans expect that the current administration's rollbacks and undermining of clean energy is going to cause their costs to go up. Electricity prices are on track to be the highest they have been since the 1990s, and you all know this. People, there is a demand for new energy, more energy, right? We we need the energy right now. And there is an expectation from people that it be clean and cheap. Second, jobs, jobs, jobs. Already, well, let me start with the polling. 57% of Americans believe the administration's clean energy rollbacks are having a negative impact or no impact at all. Only 29% say they have a positive impact. And there's a reason for that. More than 60,000 people are already having their jobs taken away or under fire, right? That is leaving a mark. We have also seen for a very long, in recent polling, but it's been true forever, clean air and water. People want to breathe clean air. They want their child to be able to drink clean water. And they strongly oppose any proposals that eliminate those protections. And that's exactly what is happening. So here's the bottom line. And then I'll leave you with one more example before seeing if there's any questions. Um, you are a critical voice in defending everything. And your constituents are the ones who will bring these economies back to your cities and states, um, and making it real for people. So let's go to the next slide because I think we'll see this in practice. Um, and there are so many examples of so many of you and others really putting all of this into action. But I want to highlight Mayor Mims in Dayton, Ohio. He did an excellent job during March recess of talking about what's at stake. He joined a press call and talked directly about what was being lost or under threat, the 500 million in revenue, the 2,000 jobs, the economic development that people are feeling. My favorite line was the contrast he built between the economic state in Dayton before and since the passage. I'm just going to quote, Ohio was number one in job losses and 49th in job creation since the recent election. And there are so many advocates like ourselves at Climate Power, Climate Mayors, America's All In. There are so many organizations and groups who stand at the ready to provide the support, the backing, the infrastructure to be able to get these stories out, and are more than happy to work with anybody on finding these opportunities. Okay, that was a lot for me. And so let's see if I think there's a couple of questions. I think people use the Q&A function. We can unmute you individually, um, or I can just do I want to call some of these questions out in the chat. Um, and so we have a lot of people on, and so thank you for being patient and even with us being a little behind. Um, well, these are good stats. Can you provide references to the polls and other data so we can tell others where we are getting our information? Absolutely. Some of that is included in the guidebook itself. Gabriella very helpfully put in a link to our recent polling. Um, I am absolutely with you, Rich. I think a lot of what we need to do is to show our work nowadays and show where this is coming from and what those either opinions or the facts or the research shows. So we will make sure to get it out. Um, Second, David Kyler. Although clean energy, thank you, Gabriella, for putting that in there, is an important priority. There are many other threats to environmental quality under proposed budget reductions. Supporting clean energy funding alone is insufficient. How should we advocate more broadly to gain benefits through budget decisions? That is a very good point. And right now, um, oh, I just lost the webinar for some reason. Sorry. And right now, I think that there is an active fight uh, to take away, to repeal the entirety of the Inflation Reduction Act in many ways, right? Or effectively. Um, and so I do think uh, it is a piece of this. It is also the rebates. It is also direct pay. There are a lot of pieces of the Inflation Reduction Act that are very important. And I agree with you. There are so many other threats and we are in an active fight right now on the Inflation Reduction Act, where the House will be voting in 48 hours on it, and the Senate will take it up. And we need to make sure that we are doing all that we can um, to really protect it. It is hard when there is a trifecta to not to be able to save it all. So how do we protect as much as possible? And I think that is something uh, that is very important. I want to go to the next question because I do think it is really important. And I will just ask one of my colleagues if they want to jump in as well to please do. Um, when you say don't name the cause, do you mean the administration or climate change? That is such an excellent question. Um, I right now, I think it really depends on where you are and what you are trying to accomplish. Uh, going like there is absolutely no reason right now to be overly partisan and we need to be extremely factual and focus on those benefits and not on the trump of it all, I would argue, right? That is not a black and white rule by any stretch, but it is important that we are telling our story and not having it become a partisan he said or she said. Now, that is extraordinarily hard to do. Um, and we do talk more about this in the guidebook. And I don't know if somebody on my team could throw that into the chat. I just want to take the one uh, Yep. David, I hear you. Um, I hear you. And I think there are a lot of people doing a lot of work on it. I think there are pieces of this uh that is a much, much higher um hill to climb, right? There are certain pieces that are going to be eliminated, and there are certain pieces that we still have a fighting chance to protect. And I dislike doing that because it's not uh picking your favorite child. It's where can we have the most impact and protect the most right now. That is not a blanket statement of that is not a blanket statement to not talk about these things. It is just where we are right now. We can, we have a huge opportunity as the repeal legislation moves into the Senate to protect a lot of the gains we've made. Not all of them. And we need to fight on this. Um, to Elizabeth's point, uh, like we have to keep fighting. Um, and I am probably leaning more under the clean energy right now because of the House vote that is going to be happening at some point today or tomorrow. Okay. Thank you all very much. Um, next steps. First, use the guide. We've dropped a link into the chat. Second, start getting out there and vocal on this issue, whether you have a project directly in your community or not. People need to hear from you on the impact of the investments, of what it means in your community, of the grants, of the projects. And third, we are here to help. We tracked all of the questions. We will come back with any additional details we have. And just know there are so many organizations who are ready to support you. And their contact info is included in the guide. So with that, thank you very much for joining us. And we will be back to help.